I'm on the way out.
We'd like to go ahead and take the meeting back to order.
So this is Vanessa. This is Sarah. She just moved in next door. She's transplanted from Orlando. She's an operations. She's a sister. I'm on she's on the other side.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward with our meeting. If we could get everybody to please take their seats, and we're calling the meeting back to order. We do have a couple of items that, to ensure that we give them the appropriate amount of attention, that we would like to go ahead and forward out to the board, but we are going to delay those presentations as they were more for informational purposes. Bill, would you like to speak to those two items?
We have an incubator update, but I think it would be better if we take time next month to tour the incubator, do the update here, and then advertise to take a tour so that everyone can see exactly what's going on. And we also have a full report on the severance tax and Mosaic agreement funding history, where every dime has been spent, and we will forward that presentation to the board, and you will have time in the ensuing days and weeks to review before the next meeting.
So with that, we would like to continue with Mike and Tricia on reviewing our financial audit. Dave, you're back today for us to review and discuss our final approval.
Last month we did a detailed presentation on the financial statements, and I know you just got them a day or so beforehand and hadn't had a chance to really digest it. So we're back on this meeting to see if there's any questions that you have that we can answer concerning the financial statements.
I just got a comment on page 26 and 27. Something that's been bothering me for a long time. Page 27, I guess, is where I'd like to read from. So the authority's future existence is not dependent on future payments beyond the 10-year period of the development agreement. And that's one thing that I keep wanting a workshop on, that what are we going to do after the 10 years to keep all these free payments going? I mean, we don't charge rent, we pay light bills, we do this, we do that. Probably $800,000 to $1 million a year we don't get reimbursed for. Where are we going to get this money when the Mosaic agreement runs out? Is the EDA going to help us pay for all this stuff, or what? I mean, that's just a comment, and I think we need a workshop at some point to say, how are we going to fund all these things when the Mosaic money runs out? Okay. I'm glad you put that in your report, though. I'm glad you put it in.
I think the purpose of that was to say that you're still a going concern even after the Mosaic money stops, at least after this 10-year period is over. And there are other operations. There's the industrial park. There's some other things. There's EDA funds that you that flow through EDA. But I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, if the EDA is agreeing to fund all these things for us, then I'd like them to come out and say it. That's fine.
I think that's a good idea to take a look ahead and see what, do some planning for after the end of the Mosaic.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
Mike, you might want to go through the formalities of this document. Once it's approved, what happens with it, what the time frames are.
Well, once it's approved, we have the finals here, and we've already received a letter of representation from you. So once the board approves, then there's really nothing else to do. You don't need to file an annual financial report since you're component unit of the county. You're incorporated into the county's annual report, so there's really nothing further to do concerning the audit after you approve.
Mike, one of the things that I've talked a little bit with Bill about is having a list of, I know that you have our assets, the total of our assets outlined, but do you have a list of our assets, like the buildings and all of those things? And I'm just curious from my perspective why that's not a part of the financial statement showing, either the current market value or something along those lines.
Your assets are really divided into two pieces. You've got the property and the industrial park that is that's shown as inventory, and that is below our cost or market. And then there is property and equipment. If you go to page 25. That lists out your capital assets, and that's everything, all your other capital assets besides what's shown as inventory, besides the vacant land that you have in the industrial park.
But you have a list somewhere, an itemization of what goes into, what all factors in to those capital assets.
There
The
is
buildings,
there
the
is
lots,
a depreciation schedule that has a detailed list of what makes up these numbers.
and that appreciation schedule would also show either the cost or current market value.
Well, for financial statement purposes,
You just show the
capital assets
depreciated amount.
are shown at cost, and then there's accumulated depreciation that's also calculated. You'd only show the market value if it was donated to you, and then you would come up with the market value. The only other time market value comes into play is if the market value, say for property that you own, falls below what the cost is, and there's a permanent impairment, then you would write it down to that market value amount. And inventory is also lower cost of market. So and we do an analysis. I think we've done the analysis of the grove property and the houses, and compared it to a market study that was done for property near there.
What depreciation schedule? Straight line?
I believe it is all straight line. Yes.
Can we refer to the just value by the property appraiser as a credible market value figure?
I believe just value is not the same as true market value. I don't want to speak for Kathy.
No, I'm just saying, which figure that she produces would be the best one for us to utilize
Just to
if we
have
wanted to
an
have.
itemization of assets, which I think that's about the only thing that you can do, because there's gonna be no way for us from year to year to determine any other type of value than to just use the just market value.
The just value would probably be the best thing that's available publicly.
In this report that we're not producing today, we use just value for all of the properties.
That would be conservative, because I believe,
Right.
and I don't want to speak for Kathy, but I believe Kathy
It's about 85.
Yeah,
about 85% of what your market value is.
okay, that answers my question, thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? We are looking to approve the final draft today. I believe that nothing has changed in the draft since last month's meeting, and we had the review and some discussion. So any other questions or comments from the board? If not, we will open for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, I heard Gene first because he's sitting closer. Lori, would you like to be second?
Travel slowly.
Are you the second? Okay. Any further discussion from board members? Any public comment? If not, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to be your auditor.
Thank you, and thank you, Tricia, for coming in.
You said that with a straight face.
can.
That was pretty good. And good luck with the new baby.
Yeah, and I do appreciate Tricia joining me today. She's officially on FMLA, but she really didn't want to miss the meeting today.
I'm not sure you should go on record saying that, Mike Carter, but that's now your problem.
She's
isn't it?
about 12 hours a week, so.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for being here today. As Bill mentioned, we are going to move past the incubator update and the presentation, and we're going to make those items paramount on next month's agenda. So we will go ahead and move into our financial report, if Sarah is ready.
Charlie, did you have anything that you needed to come up here for?
I don't think so. I can come up in case there's any questions.
Starting on page 13, begins the financials. Our profit and loss, budget versus actual. This is just an overview for the fiscal year for you to review at your leisure. The reports that we will discuss start on page 16, actually, that's the balance sheet as of December 31st. At December 31st, we had a total checking balance of $69,499.44. We had current assets of $88,291.11. Flipping to page 17 shows the profit and loss, shows our income and expenses for the month of December. We did receive a draw from the BOCC funding of $50,000. We also took in $2,000 in rent from the Main Street and CRA organization for their office space rental. Expenses, there were not any abnormal expenses for the month of December. You can look down the line, they were pretty in check with a normal month. Total expenses were $24,811.97. So nothing really came out that month that was unusual. Page 18, that's the profit and loss for the fiscal year start date through December of 2014, just to look over. We've taken in a total income of $53,000. Starting on page 19, that is the general ledger for the EDC. That shows all of the expenses and deposits for the month of December. So if there are any questions on a specific transaction that took place out of the EDC funds, we can take those up now. And that runs from, let's see, page 19 and 20 on your financials. Does anybody have any questions on any particular transaction? If not, we'll go ahead. Page 21, that also, that shows you the payroll summary. So you can look at that detail. And then from there, page 22 is the reconciliation detail for the bank statement. If there aren't any questions on the EDC financials, we can move directly to page 23, and that will begin the Industrial Development Authority. On the IDA balance sheet as of December 31st, 2014, total checking and savings of $4,708,355.17. If you will go down the page to the due from other governments and the code 133001, which is due from the EDA, I do want to point out that we are awaiting reimbursements on EDA grants of $1,970,182.46. The clerk's office has all of those reimbursement packages, and we are currently awaiting them to reimburse our money.
Are these the same ones we had last month?
Some of them are new. Yeah, some were just turned in January. Some are outstanding.
How old are they? I mean, I don't need, huh?
June.
June.
Now, per our conversation last month, I know you've had several meetings and that you've worked out what the expectations are for reimbursement. So can you elaborate on what the holdup on the expenses from?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. They have expressed to us that we have provided everything that they needed to review, but the response that we're getting is that they are just still reviewing the information.
So to your knowledge, there's nothing outstanding on that, on our end to receive the reimbursement. They're not saying you have outstanding documentation, you need additional items.
Correct. There is nothing outstanding on our office's end.
And so what was the last communication you had on the reimbursements outstanding from June approximately?
I believe actually Christie spoke with Lex last week on Friday about possibly getting some resolution to this.
Is it Lex's office or is it the clerk of courts?
I also spoke to the clerk, and he just told me he's still reviewing. I was probably right around the first of January, when y'all get back from holidays.
Okay.
How it kind of works, the reason we bring Lex into it is because their office is kind of the first layer of review, or second, I should say. The first layer of review is our office, and we bring in all our receipts, and we put together the reimbursement package. It then goes to Lex's office for review.
So
And
since
that's
your
where it's signed.
meeting that you had with them last month, you have probably provided additional documentation, I presume, from your conversations from that. And with the holidays, they just haven't gotten through their review process, is that?
Apparently.
Okay.
When you give it to Lex, does he sign off on it or just review it?
Lex himself doesn't sign off on it, but they have to get 2 signatures on it from the
Chair and
EDA, correct, and the BOCC.
Oh.
So two signatures have to be on it, and then it goes up.
Probably the chair of the LCC, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming that we've already paid this money out.
Yes, we have.
Well, where did we get that money? We borrow it?
Well, I think that, and that's part of, one of the other things that I would like to ensure we do, provide an outline for in the future. We are advancing these funds because this is a reimbursement grant on behalf of the EDA. So in many cases, we are advancing the funds out of IDA funds.
We are.
And then we are being the intermediary, for lack of a better word, I guess, for the project and ensuring that the documentation. So have we had dialogue with the EDA about ensuring, I know we've met with the clerk of courts and with Lex's office to say, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page about what documentation is required. Have we put any of that in a document, or have we had that dialogue presented back to the EDA so that we ensure that as they're approving this process up front, they're having that dialogue with the candidate, considering that?
That was one of the things that we did discuss with the clerk's office when we had our meeting a couple months back. I actually expressed some concern to the clerk's office, to Jeremy, as well as to Vicki, that had this situation not been the IDA, had it been some other
Grant recipient, and we're not managing the process.
this would not be able to happen. The grant recipient would not have the capital to continue on with their project and wait that long for reimbursement. I also had discussions with the clerk saying, just because it is the IDA and we do have the capital, I still do not want to continue with projects and continue to tell the board that we're going to continue funding or continue construction on a project that I don't know that I can meet the needs for. And so at one point, one of my discussions with them was, I need to know what your date is, because I have to tell my board what projects we're going to stop funding. Because I don't feel comfortable expending the monies out of other IDA accounts, whether it be Mosaic or the general fund, and depleting those funds to the point that we don't have the capital to safely and securely continue to fund projects while we're waiting for over $1 million.
I mean, we realistically should be on a month-to-month basis, so I think that there needs to be, I don't know if we're the best party to initiate that. It sounds like we're kind of being charged with the task, and then stuck, holding the bag until we get the reimbursement, so it may fall on our shoulders to initiate that process. Then we need to outline that a little bit better with, what the expectations are going to be with the project, and we need to get whatever that outline is agreed to by the county commissioners or the BOCC and by the EDA, because we need to ensure that they understand that beyond a certain point, whether we agree that that's 45 days, 60 days, whatever the case may be, that we're gonna stop funding the project.
And that was pretty on par with my exact discussions with them.
Okay.
And that I felt that we needed to bring the entire EDA board in on it as well and make them aware of the situation and how do we better handle this. Again, if it wasn't the IDA and it was some other grant recipient, we need to put some policies in place to ensure that, we have this taken care of and everybody's on the same page.
So since you have been involved in most of those conversations and that dialogue with the clerk's office, with EDA, with BOCC office, can you put together some form of an outline of what some reasonable expectations between the parties might be? I would like to see that, or I think that would be important to look at as part of our review of the incubator, just as a sample project, and then so that we can start having that process formalized a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah.
So can you put that together for next month's meeting, just a rough outline that will hopefully eventually end up in some form of a contract or agreement that all parties are in agreement with?
Sure,
Sarah,
absolutely.
Is this unusual to be 7 months delayed in getting
Absolutely. And we've never experienced it before.
I mean, we appreciate the thoroughness on
Yeah.
on the back end and whatever their processes are that we have to go through, but I think if we don't understand what that process looks like or the expectation is, then we front money and put ourselves in jeopardy if we don't understand what our outline on the project should look like.
Right, and agreed. We, by no means are we balking at the oversight and review that they are undergoing. We welcome it, obviously, that it's necessary. I just feel that obviously it took a little while for us to all obviously get on the same page of how the clerk's office wanted to see our reimbursement packages coming in. We met about that. I felt that we all got to an agreement and an understanding. We've had reimbursement checks cut since then. But for whatever reason, whether it's they're just completely overloaded at the clerk's office with other duties as well.
Well, and I think that, again, if there's a lack of an outlined process and they're having to recreate the wheel every time, that probably contributes to us having a hold up in that process. And then my last question about that, is there a defined project management cost that we are charging to the EDA or to the EDA grant, or have we had that dialogue with them? I know it's been, sporadic with some of the projects that we've managed, but have we had an actual formal conversation with them about a defined project management cost for us to basically be the project manager on their grant?
Correct. We have not had that discussion today.
How long are we gonna be able to keep going like this till you say, board, we gotta make a decision on which ones we keep funding and which ones we don't?
We're okay to still continue funding, but it's not.
I mean, that's where, I think to your point though, Donald, to give them the direction they need on a daily basis, I think we need to outline what the process should be.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of look to you to say, you know what,
This is the first I've heard about this. God, I didn't realize this. You know, we need to get our money back, and, you know, we need to, whatever we need to do. Because we can't keep going like this. We're gonna,
Is
you
this?
know, I don't want the projects to stop.
Yeah,
you
is this
know.
more than one request? I mean, is it,
yes, it is.
how many?
Five to eight.
There appears to be just a really big backlog of, at the clerk's office. I don't believe that, obviously don't believe they're doing this intentionally. I really honestly think that there's just a lot of work, and it takes a great amount of time to go through each one of these reimbursement requests.
Well, but I think that's where, if, you know, somehow we're gonna have to better understand, and if that means we need to pull them in to tell, you know, we need them to share with us, well, what is your process? I mean, if there are things that we can do as the manager of the project to improve what they have to do on their end, you know, if there's a certain outline they want us to use, if there is,
We did do that. Now, that was a part of the discussion we had a couple months ago. We actually, the clerk's office and our office agreed to a specific outline and detail of how they wanted us to present the reimbursement packages here on out, which we have been doing. So that discussion has already been had.
okay. Well, I think at some point, if we, you know, can't outline or define what an appropriate time frame with them, we may need to, you know, ask them to join us and come to the meeting so that we can, you know, we need to hash that out, because we need a workable time frame. To me, you know, even up to 90 days would be a reasonable amount of time, but, you know, if it's something that we're doing, we need to know, and otherwise, then we need to be able to let them know how it's going to affect projects moving forward.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay.
All right. So, continuing on, we can go start looking at the profit and loss by class that starts on page 25. I'm sorry? That includes $7,500 of that is actually getting the broadband systems and phones in place at the entire incubator. So that was putting in and setting up all of the equipments and making the shop to the tower. So the good majority of that was equipping the building for broadband and phone.
I'm sorry, what building?
The incubator building.
Okay.
Just a couple of points. We had $21,980 of surveying work that has been done on the Corridor Group grant. That's the water and sewer grant that we are administering for the EDA. So we started some work on that. And then flipping to the incubator fund, that was one of the notes that I did have, was to discuss the utilities amount. So, and then the $13,512.54 was the insurance policy for that building, paying on that. And then down under the capital outlay, the majority of that $48,316.98 were payouts to Half Acre for the continued construction within the building. So,
That's paying subcontractors and stuff, people like that.
right, through our Half Acre contract. If you flip to the next page, over on Tech River Building, under rental income, the 13-1250 Utilitech has paid rent. That is 3 months worth of their rent, so their contract to begin paying rent at the facility has started now. So we will be receiving that on a monthly basis from them. And then over on Florican, we continued construction on that project. The monies that were spent from this report the majority of it, went to Yana Concrete for the concrete in the building and, to Half Acre for the payment of the subs and their portion of the contract.
Let me talk about this for a minute. If you can tell me, you may not have the information in front of you. How much have we totally spent on this up to this date? Is it about close to 2 million or 1.5 million or something?
It's close to 2, because we're close to the
Okay, and that includes the site work, right? Site work's part of the,
site work was done separately.
okay,
If
we,
I had the P and L year to date, I could tell you right away, that's not in our reports, but we could actually start adding that to the report so
I have
that,
fiscal year to date on
okay, but here's where I'm going with this.
there. Here it is.
yeah, we'll need to just start breaking out the P and L year to date by class though, to show that, and then we could actually, that would answer your questions.
Okay, our budget, the part of this building and all for us is $2.5 million in our budget, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we had
Now-
an EDA grant as well.
Do I?
We also have an EDA grant.
Well, that is part of it, isn't it?
Right, it's a total of $4 million that we have to spend on the project.
Okay, we have a total of 4 million. Okay, I was thinking it was 2.5, but we got 4 million.
We do,
Okay.
yes.
But that includes the EDA's grant.
Yeah, but it comes to us. Yeah, okay,
Correct.
okay,
And,
all right.
and see, and that's another thing, you know, I don't mean to harp on this project management stuff, but, you know, that would be, to me, if we have, it's a construction project and we already have a project manager, that's not what I'm talking about defining. Now, you know, to me, we're already paying fees to Half Acre for that. I don't know what, you know, I think that we would have to outline what our office's time and responsibility is in co-managing that portion of a combined construction project.
Right.
And, you know, not to keep harping on us charging the EDA, I don't mean to sound capitalistic in that regard. However, there is real time involved in managing these projects. And we're gonna get to the point somewhere, and I think we probably are past the point that we actually need, you know, some sort of project manager on staff. So we need to kind of define and outline all of these things so that we can better move forward and understand what funds we have utilized toward those costs.
I would agree, definitely.
Okay, let me get back. Okay, so we have spent close to 2 billion, you said, so far? Close to it. And you said that did not include the site work.
I don't believe so. I'll
So-
have to go back and look.
So the site work is not part of the budget. When you do a budget for a building, you don't include the site work?
$600 and some odd thousand for site work, and they're working on it now.
It would be included in the overall budget, yes.
It's kind of complex because it's not just the stuff around the building. That contract called for the slab preparation itself to be within, I want to say a tenth, had to be really close.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was around $600 and some odd thousand.
Yeah, I think the site work was, but what I'm asking is the site work included into the $4 million?
Yes, it is.
Okay, okay. So when we get, my question is, and it may be a stupid question, is that once we get to the $4 million mark and the building's not finished, is that when Floor Canvas money starts coming in to finish the building? Is that, or the parking lot, or the?
We should have a pretty detailed outline contract of what we should accomplish with our part of that money, and that is what Half Acre is managing, is that
Correct.
not correct?
Yes.
So we have an outline for what we should expect to get for the $4.5 million.
And we also have a GMP on our project, which,
I may have misstated that.
well, to tell you, you know, we have a GMP set for every project, which is a guaranteed maximum price that we are going to pay. So that is set up front with Half Acre. We actually just, was it last week or the week before? Last week, opened quite a few subcontractor bids for Florida Can. Half Acre was here and our staff, we opened those bids and awarded. The bids that came in several were well under what Half Acre had put in the budget for.
Good.
So we're coming in actually under budget on this project. So we do not see at this point that we would even begin to go over the GMP. We will actually come in less. So, I mean, to help your concern, I think a little bit of what happens if we get to $4.5 million or $4 million and we don't have any money and the project's not done.
Right.
Number one, I don't foresee that happening from the subcontractor bids that we have, gotten so far and awarded. We seem to be well under budget, but there also is a GMP in place, so to keep that from happening.
Well,
And if the building's not done, obviously we would have to address that, you as a board, with FloorCan and say, make a decision. We've expended our monies that we agreed up front to put into the building. Now you're gonna have to spend your monies or whatever the board's
Or
part of
maybe
it.
a conversation with Half Acre if something has gone.
Right, but why are you so over the GMP?
well, the reason I'm asking this is that I thought and I understood the contract with Florcan says that we've got a budget of $4 million, they've got a budget of $4 million. That it's gonna be a partnership type thing. That when we spend our $4 million, then they come in there and finish it up with their $4 million.
They will.
I thought that's the way it
put a
worked.
significant amount of capital into the project by the time it's done, yes.
Well, you're talking about putting the equipment inside the building, it has nothing to do with building the building.
They're not putting $4 million in building the building, they're putting $4 million in tangible property, not the factory work.
Okay, so that's the $4 million you were talking about.
Correct.
Yes,
Oh, I thought they were gonna help,
We will.
in case we needed money to build a building, they were gonna help build a building. I mean, everybody knows if a business moves in, they're gonna bring their own stuff in there, that's just common sense.
Right.
You
It
know.
wasn't ever in the contract though that they would expend funds on actual construction
Oh,
of the building.
okay, well, I misunderstood from the beginning, okay.
But some of these would probably be fixed assets within the building that we would probably need to have some acknowledgement for, just like with
PFM,
and their,
or whatever,
So-
absolutely.
so it's not necessarily that they're bringing in things that, have no value to the project or the building or acknowledgement from us that it's a tangible investment.
Mhm. And that's obviously something that Charlie will take into consideration, with our finances.
Okay, I just misunderstood, I'm ready to go.
All right, page 27, there's not really anything of significance to report. You can see the rental income that we've taken in for Keyplex. And that's about all on that page. On page 28, that's where it shows, under administrative, under special revenue, the 56,000, that is, expenses for Wicks Brown and Clifton Larson Allen that we spoke of earlier. For auditing and accounting. Really from there, we can flip to page 30, that'll show you the profit and loss as of December. And as of December, total income was $1,033,134.27. We had total expenses of $764,668.45. The next page shows you the profit and loss year to date. It isn't broken out by class, but as I said earlier, that's something that we've made a note of, that we could actually start putting in the report, and some of the questions that Donald had posed would actually be answered by that report, so that would be a good thing. And then on page 32, that starts the general ledger. If you have any questions, page 32 through 36. If you have any questions on a specific transaction, we can go over those from those pages.
Any questions or comments from board members? Anything further on your presentation?
That's okay.
If not, we will open for a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
Thank you, Dahl. Do you have a
Get
second?
into it.
Second.
I was wondering if you guys were just gonna leave it in there.
We're hungry.
Well, there was something
No, we're not.
that I didn't catch. Okay, Donald and Monica, any further discussion from board members? If not, we'll open for public comment. Mr. Coleman?
Madam Chair, did Autumn Blum get any money this past month?
Is that all? If you could go ahead and do
Just
your
asking.
entire 3 minutes, and then we will address your questions or concerns at the end.
I can't continue with my comments unless I have information to the question. Then based upon, I may have another question.
Did Autumn Bloom receive any funding this month?
As of the December financials, no. It would have started in January, so that'll show up on next month's financials.
So there's pending money. Does Stream to Sea Autumn Blum have a contract for the IDA?
Stream to Sea itself does not have a contract between the IDA. Stream to Sea has a contract with the EDA as a part of the incubator contracting grant.
I believe that, I don't believe there's a contract per se. I don't want to spend all my time on this, but my point is, these are advances, money going out, estimates, nothing backing anything up, no commitments one way or the other, the whole thing, on and on and on. That's just one point on me. Charging the EDA administrative expenses to project manage their grants. It's not their grant. You're the one asking the money from the EDA. It's your grant. It's your project. You're getting the money from them. You manage your own project. If you're trying to figure out a way to do this
Mr. Coleman, you can-
$19,599.98 thing,
Mr. Coleman, I'm happy to let you cover that in general public comment, but at this point, if you can keep your comments to the financial statements. That's where we're at, financial statements.
you are bringing up the fact over and over about going to the EDA during her presentation.
I realize that, but the public comment section is relevant to the financial statements. So we have a motion on the table relevant to accepting the financial statements. Do you have any further comments on accepting the financial statements?
Sure. As far as, anybody hear me? They heard me. Oh, okay, that's fine. I can speak. As far as, trying to get money out of the EDA on a grant. You applied for a grant from the EDA, they gave you the money, and you know what the process is. It's the same process you've always had. You
Okay,
said-
I'm gonna mention again that we're not debating that issue right now. We are on the financial statements. That was a sub-comment for a further future debate. So if you don't have any financial statement related comments or questions, please take your seat.
Okay, I do.
You've expended your time on these other areas after I cautioned you to return to the financial statement, so please take your seat. Any other public comment? Mrs. Bellflower? Mr. Kirkland will come to you next.
Kevin Bellflower, 220 Illinois City. I have two questions. One, city payment of insurance for the incubator insurance, did that go out for RFP?
I'm sorry, I don't think I heard your entire, are you asking if, did we RFP?
$13,505.54 that was paid to Albright Insurance for the incubator insurance. Did that go out for RFP?
That was already under an existing award with Albright for that building. It was just the renewal, under a 2-year renewal. We will re-quote those, next time they come up for expiration. So
Okay.
we do a 2-year, window with our insurance providers.
And I have one more question. Who is Faith Connolly and what was the $1,000 payment to her report?
Who is Faye Connolly and what was $1,000 for?
Faith Connolly is someone that we contracted with, who has extensive knowledge in the fill line arena. She constructed and wrote the SOPs that are being used in the incubator fill line. Those are the standard operating procedures. There are some 200 plus SOPs that have been written that are on file in our office as well as at the incubator. They're required by the state to be licensed as a fill line. You have to have them on file several places, and that is part of your licensing inspection that you go through. They actually go through those SOPs. So we hired someone who actually is familiar with writing them to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Who is licensed as a fill line? Is it this board?
Yes, sir.
Well, who is?
We actually had a person here today that's going to be the interim license holder for the incubator. I don't know that we'll use that license with anyone before we can RFP for it. That was part of our presentation today, but we will cover that with you next month. And it is a person that has been in the fill line contract production business. This person is. Okay.
That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Bellflower. Mr. Kirkland?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know answers, but until you get through, you do it your way. Okay. Is you're not allowing public comment to speak unless you alone arbitrarily decide it's not relevant. And also, I would add, when the board has discussed things that we want to talk about on this issue, then I wanted to make it more of a statement. That was more of a question. Are you aware that the state statutes call for you to encourage public involvement? And
Okay, Mr. Kirkland, I'm going to have to ask you, no, sir. Your statements or questions, we are not on general public comment. We are on financial statements.
I wanted to ask questions about what these
You
people talked
may
about.
ask questions at this point about
When they were talking
financial
about it, now it's not.
statements. If you have no questions related to that, please take your seat. No, we have not. Do we have any other public comment related to the financial statements? If not, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, we are going to move into announcements, other business, and public comment. I know there is at least one board member with a question or a comment. When we move into the public comment section, this is when you have the opportunity to address anything you would like to address within your 3 minutes, respectfully so. Mr. Davis.
Do we have any kind of update on PF Man?
I did not prepare. I had been out there several times. They are continuing to operate, but I didn't prepare anything formal today. I can certainly do that.
Anything going on?
They are continuing to work on the production process, and we got their report for Space Florida on their payroll. And Sarah, what was, they have 14, was it 14? 15, averaging $43,000 some odd dollars.
Average salary was $43,015.
So they have 15 employees working there now?
Yes.
How about the $3,000 that owe us?
We do not have that back yet, but we will get it, I promise. We have reached out to them, but they closed for 2 weeks at Christmas and sent everyone to wherever. And Ronnie and Sean have been in China for the last 2 weeks, so we just haven't had a chance to connect.
Okay. Have we ever got a explanation on why we didn't get the USDA grant? supposed to get somebody to tell us where we failed.
I thought we discussed last month that, technically we were not the applicant, the group that was here was the applicant, and I don't know that they provide feedback on why we didn't receive that. They didn't provide.
Have we paid them the
USDA
$25,000?
No.
Okay,
They,
well, that's
they
good.
were only, the agreement with them was only if they were successful in receiving the grant on behalf of the IDA that we would
Okay.
move forward.
All right.
They were not successful. I don't know that they were provided any information as to why, but, you know, ultimately, our agreement with them was only if they were able to successfully.
Well, it was gung ho. I figured they'd come back and tell us what direction we need to go. Okay, I wanted to ask Ken, was he gone to lunch? Is he here? Okay, he was gonna find out if we needed to be bonded or not, and I haven't heard back from him. I bet he's gone to lunch. That's all right.
I bet he's on the payroll.
Well, I'm hungry too, but that's all right. If he's not here, that's fine.
Your salary is just fantastic.
Well, wait, I can ask him next month. And the last thing is that I think Sarah was gonna get me some information on Miss Juliana, what are we getting for our $4,000 a month? Is that you that you don't do that?
Well, that was actually a part of the presentation that we bumped to next month's meeting as well. Her quarterly report update was to include where she's at, what she has been accomplishing,
Yeah,
what
that'd be
her
good
goals
to know.
are.
She, as of January 15th, she is no longer performing any contract services for us. She's working strictly for Scranton City.
Okay, so we're not gonna be paying her any more money. I won't see any more come out of here.
Well, last,
It will be the last
last.
to true her up.
Well, I'd still like to see what we got for our $25,000 or $30,000.
It's
I
in the
think that'll-
incubator presentation.
Yeah. That'll be the first
You
thing
know?
on the agenda for next month's meeting, that whole presentation with the update on, the incubator management part as well as the fill line and all of the tenants that are currently in the incubator now.
I'm done. I'm done.
All right, any other, input or comments from board members? If not, then we will open for public comment. Mr. Kirkland.
Okay, we'll just go back to where I was at a couple minutes ago, and I was asking the question because I was wanting to know something. I'll finish the question. Is you're not allowing public comment to speak unless you alone arbitrarily decide it's relevant or not. Then, is it part of the IDA's policies that dictate what is relevant for public comment, like in definition? How do you don't give any leeway, so, and is it the same for the board members? Because, we're hearing what they're saying, so we get to thinking about what they're saying, and we come up here. I'm trying to get educated on what's going on here.
Sure, and I appreciate that. Is that,
Oh, sorry. So, the other thing that I would like to say is, if I can say it quick enough here to get out of here, there'll be a question that you can answer anytime you want to. Ask or answer, when is IDA going to use statutory guidelines by doing math on leasing buildings? Example, pre-code should, $1 million should be $10,000 a month. $2 million for PF man. 20,000 for PF man. 40,000 for the building you're building now. And the statute calls for this stuff to be put back in the IDA's hands between 7 and 10 years. Any incentive, including tax breaks. And Bill done told me you don't do any math, and it's apparent. Rico's sitting there costing the public $10,000 a month for rent alone. Not even counting all the electrics and different incentives that are sliding in. I don't have every one of them in my head, so I won't put it, but just in rent alone. It's costing the public for them to sit there. And when are you going to start going by the statutes and doing math and operating like a professional business would operate? Get away from the philosophy crap. Thank you.
Mr. Kirkland, if you would please send me an email telling me where that's in the statutes, I'd appreciate it.
I think I've done getting statute.
I do want to respond
I'd like
to.
to have them again, please.
I do want to respond to your questions and address your questions or concerns about public comment and the relevance. Certainly we do always at the end of the meeting provide an opportunity for the public to comment on any project or any business relevant to the IDA. The guidelines in the statutes do permit time for public comment, and we want to encourage the input from the public. When we are voting on a specific issue, it does fall under the purview and the responsibility of the chair to determine whether or not comments that are being made are relevant to the issue at hand. As a courtesy, I do always try to redirect so that if there is some question about that you can clarify how your comments are related to the issue at hand. We do need to maintain some order and some decorum in the meetings, and so that's why we ask you to reserve all other comments until the end of the meeting, and we provide an opportunity to encourage that time to comment.
Thank you.
Is that
We're not
answer?
perfect. Sometimes we boo-boo.
Sure. As far as it relates to board members, board members may freely have other discussion, and we do try to again encourage board members to get, to stay back on topic and those sorts of things. But once again, when it comes into debate and discussion on other issues, it is up to the chair to redirect that communication.
Like by written policy.
We have a policy outlining what the responsibilities of the chair are. As far as relevance of public comment, I don't know that it states that specifically, no. So that would be my discretion.
Thank you.
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Davis, are you saying that I'm an economic terrorist? Is that what your point?
I didn't mention any names, but if the shoe fits, put it on.
Okay, so what you just said was you're saying that I'm an economic terrorist, is that right? Yes or no? Just answer the question.
I'm saying maybe in some people's opinion.
I think you and I need to have a public conversation, and you can explain to me exactly why you think that. Then you allow me to respond to your allegation. How about that? How about you and I get together in public? We'll talk about it. I put a couple of posts up yesterday on Facebook. One was called Bend Over, was the most recent one. It had to do with Mr. Lambert's proffer on what to do about the examination. Is proper, a related party, as other people up here, related parties, people whose close relatives or their friends or a lot of other people got a lot of money proffered on how you got to get out of this examination. The only person asking any critical questions was Mr. Samuels. Everybody else was trying to figure out a way to do in-kind contributions, matches, tried hard. It was a startup. They had growth pains. It was in advance. It was a guesstimate. None of that stuff made any difference. Licensing, this and that, and investors deserved a return on their investment, for God's sake. And then now they've been given options, and all of this stuff means nothing. The only thing that makes any difference is you had two guys from Tampa come over here and promise a lot of stuff. None of that happened. Now, a Hail Mary that appears at the last October fell out of the sky with some special billing code now available through Medicare, where a doctor can prescribe some coagulation of your medical record stuff to try to save costs, et cetera, and it appears that maybe CareSync might qualify to get some revenue, 20-some bucks a month per patient. That came out of the sky. That was, none of this other stuff had anything to do with that. I do not appreciate Mr. Lambert, he's an employee, taking it upon himself to proffer a management response and then selling that thing over and over, trying in-kind contributions and mix and match and all this stuff. That has nothing to do with the fact that this money was given out over 3 years. You purposefully hid where that money went, and you purposefully did not look to see where it went or verify nothing, and nothing about this examination verifies a single penny of that money going towards the purposes of the grant. You may be able to verify that he spent the money someplace, that the money went out and it got spent. You can't verify where it went, because there's no records of nothing. I asked Carter. There are no records. You've got records where money was spent. You have no verification that what the results were and where that money went, where the hours went. None of it. Thank you. I'll do my final comment.
That means your time is up, so it's not a 30-minute comment. It's like 30 seconds, wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which one of these is going to be the best. I don't know anything about this incubator stuff. Craziness. Now we got interim managers. Now we got RFPs that were supposed to happen. It didn't happen. We got Giuliani was working. Now she's not working. We got, well, you're going to have to wait till next month. They were all here. They were sitting right here and they left. You told them to leave because the heat's on. The incubator is like PF Man and the rest of them. It's not going anywhere. You got nothing going on, and you spend 80% of your time answering to audits and ongoing criminal investigations, and there's nothing about anything in the pipeline, what's coming down the future for the IDA. There's no good news here. Now you're going to give an open house at the incubator? Show us the spray booth?
Thank you, Mr. Cornell.
Really?
Please take your
Thank you.
seat. I have to be very honest. I don't find any of your comments valid enough to respond to them. However, I think it's interesting that now that we are at the point of a billable code through CMS for the CareSync project, that just fell out of the sky. It didn't have months or years of debate for us to work this project toward. But just because you were not aware of it and it wasn't discussed publicly, it's a Hail Mary. So I find your perspective on that very interesting. Thank you very much.
Changed 15 times.
Thank you
on
very
the project.
much. Mrs. Cole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Wachula. I'd like to tell Don Zanios thank you. The research you put into the handouts you did, the thoughtfulness of your questions, they're so well thought out. And Donald, they're questions I wish I could ask. And I do see you fostering economic development, just a little more cautiously, a little more prudent. You handle their money like it's my own checkbook, and I just want to say thank you.
Mrs. Bellflower.
I don't know if this is on. I just have a suggestion. It has been a problem from day one with this board and the Board of County Commissioners that many people out here can't hear, especially those people who don't pull themselves up to their mic. If there's any money left in that budget where the IDA was going to help set this boardroom up so that they could have meetings here, go to clip-on mics so that we can hear what you people are saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bellflower. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will call this meeting adjourned.
Ma'am? I thought that was very good. I may be getting a little